Okay, hey everybody, how we doing? I'm wearing the chicken hat and Barry's in India right now. Okay, that's the intro. We gotta get moving. This has to be a bit of a Tekking101 Express video because I have a lot of other stuff going on today and I have poor planning skills. So it's just like, what is it? What are we gonna do? We gotta get moving. All right. Now, this video actually, though, originally started as just like an ordinary, like, I'm just gonna do a video on Law's crew facing off against Blackbeard, whatever. What this has actually turned into is a fascinating thought experiment about the One Piece world, okay? So I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, so just come with me on a journey. If you're a fan of my One Piece, like, isekai video series that I did, where you get isekai'd into the One Piece world and you have to survive, and there's a whole playlist about that, I think you're really going to enjoy this. Okay, so here's the setup, all right? Chapter 1063, we had Law's crew, the Heart Pirates, facing off against Blackbeard, one of the Yonko, okay? They have met on some random island in the New World. The Polar Tang, Law's submarine, has been severely damaged, so they're not going to be able to use it to escape. Blackbeard's crew was like bombarding it from above the water, so I don't know, it might have had something to do with like Augur's teleportation fruit or something to like damage the Polar Tang. So they're not going to be able to get out of there. They are stranded on this island. Burgess is on the island. He got teleported there by Augur. Have you seen why Augur's ability is probably going to be the most dangerous out of all of them? Anyway, Burgess is on the island. He's lifted up a giant mountain, chucked it at the Heart Pirates. Law was able to use his room to like disperse it, so that's okay. But they seem sort of cornered right now. And at the end of the chapter, Blackbeard himself arrives on the island with Doc Q and Stronger, and he's just like, you know, Zehaha! Law, you're the one that showed up. I know you have some information on those road poneglyphs. And then, you know, Law pulls out Kikoku and he's ready for a fight, and it's like, yeah, let's go, winner take all. All right. Now, a lot of different ways to look at this fight and how that's going to go. Probably the most notable one is we're getting Law versus Blackbeard, which is an insanely good matchup. I can't wait to see where Oda goes with that. However, the general consensus that I have seen with most people in the One Piece community is that Law's, like, the rest of his crew is just screwed over with this. Like, they are going to get annihilated by Blackbeard's crew. Maybe Beppo might be able to make it out okay. Beppo, Sachi, Penguin, Jean Bart, you know, those are like the main characters of the Heart Pirates that we've gotten to, you know, meet and see what they can do. But even then, like Jean Bart, Sachi, and Penguin, they don't have Devil Fruit powers, at least not to our knowledge. They don't seem all that like crazy powerful. During the battle at Onigashima, they didn't fight against any of the really strong opponents or anything like the Toby Ropo or the All-Stars or any of like, well, maybe some of the gifters, but none of like the headliners or anything like that. During Onigashima, every time we did see Law's crew fighting, you know, Law himself took on Kaido and then eventually Big Mom alongside Eustace Kid. But every time we would cut over to see Beppo, you know, Beppo would be fighting with Sachi and Penguin. They seem to be just fighting like the riffraff of Kaido's crew, you know, like the waiters and the pleasures and then just that. Now, you know, you still got to imagine like Sachi Penguin, they probably took out like several hundred of like Kaido's subordinates. There were a lot of waiters and pleasures, all right? So it's like Sachi and Penguin working together. Oda even said they are a very reliable duo. So dealing with like regular opponents, okay? So I don't know, they both probably had to take out like a couple hundred of like Kaido's low-tiered soldiers by themselves, and they were able to make it out of that without any serious injuries. So that is definitely a feat. But this is Blackbeard we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is a proper Yonko fleet. Not even just like regular Devil Fruit powers. They have Devil Fruit powers they were specifically hunting for on like a hit list, and they've gotten them now. Burgess has the Super Strength Fruit, which, by the way, minor correction from the last video where I talked about how I wasn't sure if Burgess already had this Devil Fruit by the time he was in Dressrosa. It was actually explicitly mentioned by Blackbeard via Denden Mushi during that arc that he wanted Burgess to get the Mera Mera no Mi. I completely forgot about that scene, so I apologize for that. But yeah, the idea was originally for Burgess to get his hands on the Mera Mera no Mi, for him to eat and get the power. I guess I just assumed that maybe it's like, okay, he wanted to get the Mera Mera no Mi for like some random, not random, but like some other member of the crew. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't going to eat the Mera Mera right there. He was going to get it, bring it back to Blackbeard, and then Blackbeard would decide who gets the Mera Mera no Mi. But no, it was expressly mentioned that Burgess was going to have it because remember when Blackbeard asked Ace to join his crew back at Bonaro Island, and Ace said no. So that was kind of like, you know, Teach's sort of logic there of like, oh, say ha ha, I'll get the Mara, and then I'll have Ace's power regardless, okay? There was also a shot during Dressrosa where Burgess was swimming in the water, so he definitely did not have a Devil Fruit at that point, which, by the way, my point still stands from that video. That makes it even more terrifying that he was able to do all that crazy stuff with armament hockey, like the Hado elbow and like the Galleon lariat, and he was knocking buildings over and blasting the Colosseum apart. That was without the super strength Devil Fruit. So I think my point still stands. This guy is terrifying. So, you know, we got all these Devil Fruit users that are really highly spec'd to their own personalities and their abilities, okay? So they're going up against a serious threat right here. Now, we don't know if, like, every single member of the 10 Titanic captains are on that ship right now, okay? In fact, I'm going to assume they're probably not all there, okay? But there's enough. We know that Burgess is there, Augur is there, Doc Q is there, Blackbeard himself is there, Stronger is there. So that's 5 characters right away that have Devil Fruit abilities. In fact, actually 6 Devil Fruit abilities because Blackbeard has 2, right? Okay. So here's the idea. How, if you were a member of Law's crew, would you survive this? In fact, not even survive this, how would you maybe possibly win this fight? Okay? Because like I said, the only character on Law's crew, on the Heart Pirates, that we know of that has a Devil Fruit is Law. Everybody else doesn't have a Devil Fruit, okay? Now, when it comes to Beppo, I think Beppo would be okay regardless. He is a mink. He's very strong. Kind of like how, like the fishmen and the merfolk have, like, just a base advantage. Like, they're just 10 times stronger than the average human. And then, obviously, they've trained beyond that. So, like, Jinbei is obviously, like, several dozen, maybe several hundred times stronger than the average human. Because he's a fishman, plus he's also been training his entire life. So, Beppo with the minks, it's kind of like that. He also has Electro. I don't know if it's ever actually been shown Beppo using Electro. Maybe it was added in the anime, or maybe it was like maybe in one of the scenes at Onigashima where you see Beppo using Electro. But he is a mink. He would be able to use Electro. And also, he does have access to Sulong. We haven't seen that either, okay? So, Law honestly has the best chance of defeating Blackbeard here. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think Law would have recruited a bunch of weaklings on his crew. And even more so, let's say he did. Let's say Law just had a soft spot for, he's like, oh, you poor guy, come and join my crew, whatever. I feel like they would have died, you know, well before this on their journey, but well before they even got to the New World. You know, if Law was recruiting just a bunch of random people from, like, you know, the Four Blues or something, like, hey there, Law, I'm a farmer from the South Blue. I would love to join your crew. And Law's like, well, do you have any battle experience being a pirate? Do you have a Devil Fruit? Do you have hockey? No, but I got this rake. It's my grandpappy's rake. He would always rake the leaves outside our farm when I grew up, and he said, someday, son, you're going to have this rake. And then I got the rake, and now I'm going to use this rake to rake my own yard. But I would love to join your pirate crew as well, because that sounds like crap. And it's like, well, whatever, your story has touched me. Come on and join up. You know, and just like, that guy would have died, like, long before they ever reached the Sabaody Archipelago, right? Law stated during Zoe, he was like, you know, my crew has 20 members strong, which is a relatively small number, okay? Like, Kid's crew has a lot more than that. You know, a lot of other pirate crews, a lot of other even supernovas have crews that are larger than 20. The Straw Hats are also an exception to this. They only have 10 members on their crew. So it's an idea of, like, maybe quality over quantity. And all 20 members, like, none of them died at Onigashima. At least I don't think they did. Nobody really died. It didn't seem like Law was somber over, well, okay, out of the 20 members on my crew, we only lost 7 during that war at Onigashima. All right, got to replace them. No, all of them survived. All of them survived a straight-up war with 2 Yonko. You know, granted, most of them were probably only dealing with the lower-tiered soldiers, but still, if all of them survived Onigashima, that's a feat. Let's not take that away from them, okay? So here's where the thought experiment comes from, okay? How would, if you were Law, if you were the captain of the Heart Pirates and you were recruiting a bunch of people in order to handle the New World and make sure to maximize their survival and, you know, or maximize the chance they can win battles and minimize the chance of their death, how would you do this with a bunch of people that don't have Devil Fruits, are not fishmen or merfolk or Lunarians, they don't have some crazy godly conquerors hockey, they're not members of like the Will of D or something, or have some crazy prophecy all about them. They're, for the most part, just regular civilians in the One Piece world, other than Law and Beppo, okay? How would you handle that? And most people would probably say, like, you can't. They would die. I was like, okay, well, let's say death is not an option. How would you handle this? And honestly, a lot of this goes back to, like, D&D kind of logic. You know what I mean? Just sit around and think about, like, okay, you're in charge of, like, a crew of, like, let's say, okay, Law and Beppo excluded. In fact, I'm going to even exclude Jean Bart, because Jean Bart is a big guy. He used to be a captain on his own crew. He's the tank. He's the tank of the group, okay? Well, my God, Law might be actually going, like, whole, like, JRPG with this. Like, okay, I'm the healer, Sachi and Penguin are DPS, you're gonna have Jean Bart as the tank. You know, he might be going with this. He might be, like, being logical here. That's the other thing, too. Law is an extremely smart, tactical kind of guy. We didn't really see that all too much during Onigashima, or rather, we saw Law attempting to be all tactical and smart, but Luffy and Kid were there, so you know what I mean? They kept messing it up, right? But this is like one of the first times we're actually seeing Law in the New World without the Straw Hats around to mess anything up, or Luffy just to dive into the battle. This is Law with his crew, and this is how they fight. So I'm going to say one of the first things that you would do is make sure that everybody has, like, a partner when they're fighting. You know, nobody runs into this and goes cowboy, like, it's okay, Law, I got Blackbeard, I'll take him down all for you, buddy. Like the random, you know, engineer of the Heart Pirates is just going to charge straight at Blackbeard. Let's make sure everybody has, like, a battle buddy here, okay? Like, look at Sachi and Penguin. Sachi and Penguin are this duo that always fight together, and they seem to have a pretty high chance of success. I started to think, like, why not have that with the rest of the crew? You know, how come everybody in the crew, out of all the 20 members, there's groups of, like, 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, depending on how overall strong the individual characters are. Those characters always fight together. Nobody runs off and goes cowboy, all right? Which, once again, very applicable for D&D terminology. Nobody be a Leroy Jenkins with this shit, okay? Nobody just be like, all right, we're facing off against the boss, guys, and I want everybody to be careful here, and then some random person in the party is just like, I got this, Eldritch Blast! I'm gonna Eldritch Blast him! I'm gonna run way in front of him and Eldritch Blast him! That'll work! It's just like, oh god, yeah, okay, by the way, that happens. Of course that still happens, but it's like, in this scenario, when it's not a game, when it's from the perspective of the Heart Pirates, like, this is a life or death situation. Everybody have a battle buddy, okay? Also, everybody just train to, like, remember back at the auction house when Rayleigh had that burst of Conqueror's Haki? Law, Beppo, Sachi, and Penguin were able to resist it. Now, granted, Sachi and Penguin had a little bit of difficulty resisting it, but they still resisted it. They didn't get knocked out by that shit, okay? Which means, what if Law actually knew about Haki and, like, specifically trained his men and Ikaku, who is the one woman on the crew, of, like, to, like, you know, hey, there's this thing called Conqueror's Haki. It can knock you out if you have a weak enough will, all right? And you don't need to have Conqueror's Haki in order to fight against Conqueror's Haki. If you have a strong enough will, if you've tempered your will, you're able to resist it, okay? I'm not sure what kind of training you could do with that, but, like, just temper your will, however that is in the One Piece world, okay? And so that way, maybe all of the members, now, if they get hit by a strong enough burst of Conqueror's Haki, you know, if it's, like, somebody that's really powerful with this shit that hits them, like, right in front, like, if Rayleigh really wanted to, well, who knows? I don't know, like, because the idea goes that, like, you know, Luffy walks into a room of, like, 100,000 or whatever and knocks, like, half of them out using his Haki. I don't know if the other half are just completely immune to it at that point, you know what I mean? Because you'd think another burst would have been enough. So it might just be like, hey, if you can resist getting knocked out once by Conqueror's Haki, then you're good. Might be something like that. So it's like, train them in that. You don't have a Devil Fruit, but that doesn't mean you can't have Haki. Yeah, granted, you're not going to have Conqueror's Haki because that's kind of rare, and you're not going to have, like, a level of armament Haki, but, like, you know, focus on your specialty. That's kind of the whole point, okay? So if you're not that great at observation Haki, I mean, you might be able to learn a little bit of it, like the bare minimum, but, like, if you're not that great at observation Haki, don't focus on observation Haki. Focus on armament. If you use a weapon, okay, if, like, okay, you have a sword that's your main weapon, okay, focus on putting armament Haki in that sword. Are you going to be as strong as Zoro or Mihawk? No, but it's something to work with that will increase your survival, all right? You know, a lot of times in the One Piece world, we see, like, whenever we see, like, random riffraff characters, and I think that might be what is going on here with Law's crew. You know, you're looking at Law's crew as if they're, like, a bunch of, like, low-tiered riffraff, like the waiters or the pleasures on Kaido's crew. They're just foot soldiers. They're just the vanguard unit. They're there to get, like, as meat shields and nothing more, right? And yeah, most of the time we see them, they're morons. You know, Luffy's, like, running through Onigashima, and there's some random waiters that have no real special abilities whatsoever, and they're like, Straw Hat Luffy, you die today! And then Luffy just sidesteps him and punches him in the face, knocks his ass down. Like, that guy's an idiot. You know what I mean? He's a moron. Yeah, don't do that, all right? It's like, so, but you think about it like, okay, what if you were actually smart with this, all right? What if you had a group of like 3 or 4 of the Heart Pirates that are all working together, that are working as a cohesive unit, that have been doing this for years maybe, and it's like, okay, this is how we're going to fight. We're not just going to run in charge. Yes, we have Haki, but we can use that in strategic ways, okay? Look at the crew. Like, examine what abilities they have. I bet Law would also have taught them that. Law is always like, hey, listen, it doesn't matter what Devil Fruit power your opponent has. It doesn't matter if it seems like something that's ridiculous. I think that might happen a lot. Like, people see a really strong Devil Fruit ability, like if you're a Logia or something, and you might be like, oh my god, it's the power of a god! We won't be able to fight against this! You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Don't let it get to you. Like, every Devil Fruit has a weakness. Like, every Devil Fruit has a weakness, has a way that you can exploit it, has a way that you can get around, okay? No Devil Fruit is nigh invincible, all right? At least that's what Law would probably tell his crew, all right? So if you run across, and they've probably run across, like, even before Onigashima, even before Wano, they've probably ran across plenty of Devil Fruit users traveling through the North Blue, and then Paradise, and then the New World, and no one on the crew has died up until this point? I mean, maybe they had. I mean, maybe when Law showed up at Zoe, and he's like, here's my crew of 20. Used to have about 100, but these are all that's left now. I mean, it could have been something like that, but I don't think so. I think Law picked these 20 members of the Heart crew to work alongside him. Like, remember when he met Jean Bart? He was like, hey, you're Jean Bart. You used to be a captain of a strong pirate crew. I want you on my crew now. You know what I mean? So he doesn't just pick up random people off the streets. He's like, hey, you're running a bakery. I really liked your cinnamon rolls. Join my crew. And just like, all right, everybody on his crew. I mean, there's some might be engineers to run the Polar Tang, and it's a submarine, so you obviously have to have more upkeep with that than a standard wooden sailing vessel. But overall, every single member on Law's crew has to know how to fight, and like fight well, not just like, you know, flail a sword around and hope for the best, okay? Like, I'm sorry guys, I'm just the janitor. No, even the janitor on Law's crew has to know how to defend themselves, all right? In fact, I would even argue maybe every single member of the Heart Pirates has a specific specialty, a specialty that they're finally honed in, okay? And it might be like going back to like D&D or like JRPG kind of logic. You know, it's like, oh, you're the DPS, or you're the one that's like super fast, so you're the whole evasion thing. Like, we send you out there, the enemy can't hit you, you're sidestepping everywhere, and then that's boom when the really strong character shows up and like punches them in the face. Even something like that would probably be more tactical than most of the waiters and the pleasures we saw in Kaido's crew. You know what I mean? Okay, let's just roll with that then. So yeah, and then okay, weapons. Let's talk weapons, okay? So it's like you got a weapon, like a sword. I think Sachi and Penguin both use swords, or one of them used like a polearm weapon. I'm sure they could add Haki to those, even on like just like a basic beginner kind of level, in order to, like, you know, fight against a Devil Fruit user or something like that. You know, and Law's ability is already so powerful, he could probably train the crew very well with the Op fruit. You know, it's just like, okay, imagine I'm somebody that just threw a giant boulder at you. What are you going to do, right? And so Law uses his room, and then he picks up a giant boulder, throws it at his crew. You know, the training sessions, you know, on, you know, the Heart Pirates are probably pretty intense, but it's probably for the best, so they actually learn about this stuff. You know what I mean? So maybe, like, Law throws a rock at them, and then Jean Bart, you know, he shows up and grabs it, and he, like, you know, chucks it away, or maybe the other crewmates are able to, like, channel Haki into their weapons. Like, there's some, I mean, I would honestly have, like, some people that are good at close combat, you know, with, like, short swords and stuff, and then we have, like, mid-range combat kind of characters with, like, pole arms and stuff like that, and then other characters that might use bows or guns or slingshots or whatever, crossbows, whatever you got in order for long range, you know. So, like, Law's crew might be balanced perfectly in that regard. You know what I mean? They might be well read, you know, so it's just like, hey, in case we run into a Logia, you know, most Logias have an elemental weakness, you know, beyond just armament hockey, like, you know, Crocodile's sand fruit was weak to water. So it's just like, okay, if we do ever run into a Logia someday, let's just like calm down, not freak out, examine what their Devil Fruit element is, and think about what their natural weakness would be. You know what I mean? Sea Prism Stone. They were just in Wano. Law's crew's gotta have some Sea Prism Stone, okay? Even if Law didn't think of it, even if Beppo didn't think of it, the random people on Law's crew are gonna be like, hey, Law, you know, this is a country filled with Sea Prism. Maybe we should get some Sea Prism weapons. Law even used, in the Law light novel, actually used a Sea Prism Karyoseki sword against the Devil Fruit user in that light novel adventure, if you want to go read that, okay? So Sea Prism weapons, I mean, Sea Prism bullets might be kind of hard to come by, but this was Wano, the one place in the world you could actually get your hands on those things. So, you know, maybe Frankie didn't pick any up, although that would suck if Frankie didn't think to pick up any Sea Prism coated bullets or whatever. But, you know, Frankie's already a cyborg. He's already decked out, all right? He can already fend for himself. But in this situation, I would say, like, yeah, if you're just like a random engineer for the Polar Tang and you have a sword and that's all you got, maybe some armament hockey, maybe some good, like, tactics working together with your friends in the crew, if you have the option to get a Karyoseki sword, go for it. So Law's crew, we might be laughing at them right now, like, oh yeah, the Heart Pirates, they're weak sauce, man. They have no way of going up against freaking Blackbeard's crew. Yeah, they might all show up, like, decked out with, like, you know, anti-Devil Fruit specialties, you know, like anti-Devil Fruit weapons and, like, strategies in order to fight them. Also, remember when Caribou fought against Peckoms during Fishman Island, and, you know, Caribou turned, you know, he was a Logia, he had the gun, and he was firing it at Peckoms, and Peckoms just, boom, just punched him out with one attack. And remember what he said. He's like, Logias that think they're invincible have short lifespans in the new world, okay? Now, I'm not going to apply that to Blackbeard, like Blackbeard is as stupid as Caribou, but Blackbeard, by experience, does tend to just walk into situations without thinking first. I mean, look at what happened with Magellan. That's my favorite example that I will never stop. That's actually one of my favorite Blackbeard moments in all of One Piece, where he's walking toward Magellan, and he's like, he's a badass, and he's gonna, like, beat him, and he's just like, you must be Magellan, Zeha! And Magellan's like, yep, and you're Blackbeard. I don't have time to deal with you right now. Hydra! And just drops freaking Blackbeard in one attack. I love that scene. So Blackbeard does tend to get ahead of himself every now and then. So, you know, the Heart Pirate crew might be aware of that. They might be like, yeah, Devil Fruit users sometimes think because they have their powers, they're so great and they're so invincible, and that, you know, they couldn't possibly deal with, like, you know, random citizens like us or random pirates like us, but we're gonna show them, right? I was also thinking, what if the way Law fights is not so much with, like, Law runs off on his own and fights with his Op Fruit? I mean, in some cases he does do that, like when they were fighting Kaido, although that was special circumstances. They had a whole plan, you know, to fight against Kaido and Big Mom together, and there was like a whole war waged downstairs, okay? This is a little bit different because, yes, Blackbeard is a Yonko as well, but this was not something they planned. They were basically caught in a trap here by Blackbeard, and they're up against a wall, and they have no choice but to fight, okay? So in this situation, it might be like the way that Law usually fights is not by himself. It might be like a unit thing, like, you know, Law fights with Beppo, Sachi, Penguin, Jean Bart, and the rest of his crew backing him up. They are one cohesive military unit, all right? They do not run off and be like, you know, do the anime thing where it's like, Sachi and Penguin, you deal with Augur. Jean Bart, you deal with Burgess. Beppo, you deal with Doc Q. And then everybody else just, I don't know, run around like chickens with your heads cut off and just fight against whoever. I'll take Blackbeard. No, it might be a thing where it's like, no, let's work together here and, like, you know, for one specific goal here. Watch my back, I'll watch yours. Obviously, Law is the cover here because he's got room and he can open up a giant space where he can be pretty much aware of everything that's going on and move stuff around. You know, that could be another thing too. Like, the whole battle tactics of the Heart Pirates might center around Law's room. So Law opens up a room, covers the entire crew together. You know, Burgess goes to punch one of them, just like, oh, wait, I'm gonna punch you in the face, Sachi. And then at that exact moment, Law opens up room, you know, shambles and switches Sachi for Doc Q. And he's like, wait, what? use the enemy's strength against them. That's the kind of shit that's thinking with your brain, you know? It's just like, a bunch of these, characters are around here, or maybe not even, you probably couldn't have Blackbeard because Blackbeard is so powerful, and, like, the whole point is Haki and Devil Fruits don't, like, you can resist. So he might be able to take some random crewmates of, like, Blackbeard or whatever and have them get hit by Burgess, okay? So Burgess isn't the most intelligent, and his Devil Fruit, while very simple, is also very powerful, but, like, it might lend to him basically being more of just, like, a muscle head, of just, like, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Wait, what? Boom! And he punches one of his own crewmates in the face, and just kills them in one shot. Maybe not another one of the Titanic captains, just a random person that was on the crew, but hey, that's an advantage for Law. Go with it, right? Augers is going to have a little bit of a problem because he has a legitimate Devil Fruit that allows him to teleport, and he's a wicked good sniper, so that's going to actually be scary. Doc Q, I mean, they were able to resist the last illness that he dealt out, but maybe that doesn't work for every single illness, so we still got to watch out for Doc Q. No idea what kind of abilities that Stronger would have as a mythical zone, a Pegasus, and then, of course, there's Blackbeard himself, who has two of the strongest Devil Fruits in the entire story. Like, if this was, like, not a Yonko, but, like, just, like, a really powerful pirate, like, if the Heart Pirates were going up against, like, Hawkins's crew, or something like that, or if the Heart Pirates were going up against, like, let's say CP9, but, like, pre-time skip CP9. Like, the CP9 that the Straw Hats went up against during Ennie's Lobby. If it was, like, the Heart Pirates against Ennie's Lobby CP9, I'd be like, I think they might have a good solid chance of, like, maybe not beating all of them, but, like, not dying, like, manage to escape. They might be able to hold their own. That might have better shot at that. Now, this is a Yonko here, and this is, Blackbeard with the Guru and the Yami, and so, like, the element weakness thing doesn't really work, because it's like, okay, he's apparently got the ability to channel darkness itself. What's darkness weak to? Lights? And it's like, okay, they like shine flashlights on them, and that actually wouldn't even work anyway, because darkness can absorb light. So it's like, but that's what I mean. Like, Blackbeard kind of breaks all the rules on this, and it's still very likely that Blackbeard might defeat Law and his entire crew. Like, that is still very likely to happen. I mean, who has the best shot of defeating Blackbeard is Law himself. But I'm just saying that, like, Law's crew's gonna put up a fight here, okay? It's not going to be just like, okay, all of Law's crew immediately gets wiped out in one attack. At least I hope that's not what happens. And then it's up to Law to just one-on-one freaking Blackbeard, and that's it. I hope that the crew actually does some stuff beforehand. I'm trying to think of, like, what else you could do. Like, okay, think about this. You've been isekai'd into the One Piece world. You're a regular citizen. You've trained, let's say you just train a lot. You train twice as hard. You don't have a Devil Fruit. You don't have really powerful Haki, so you gotta train twice as hard, okay? You gotta think smart. You gotta avoid attacks. You gotta do all that kind of crap. You gotta anticipate your enemy's movement. Learn to be resistant to Conqueror's Haki. You do the stuff you can do in order to survive, you know what I mean, in the new world, okay? So they definitely have at least baseline that much, because if they didn't, they would just be long dead at this point. Law can't always be around to save their asses, you know? I gotta think here. What else? All right, let's see here. Okay, you're a guy on Law's crew. All you got is, like, a sword and a boiler suit and basic Haki, and you're squaring up against, let's say, Burgess. All right, so let's picture this scenario here. You and, like, 3 of your buddies are facing down Jesus Burgess with the power of the Riki no Mi. How do you survive that encounter? Not even saying how do you defeat him, but how do you trip him up? How do you manage to avoid the attacks, okay? His fruit is really simple, and so I think they would be able to figure that out. Like, hey, this big guy, this big luchador dude right in front of us, I think he just has a Devil Fruit that gives him super strength. I think that's all it is. It's like, okay, well, if we get hit by that, we're dead. It's like, yeah, absolutely. So what do we do here? Figure out some way to use his strength against him, I would say. Figure out some way, use a tripwire or something. Like, if you have, like, decked out, maybe their crew's all decked out like ninjas from Naruto. Hey, they have the boiler suits. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of pockets in those things. In those boiler suits, you could be like, all right, and there's like, okay, let's all fight Burgess together. Okay, how do we trip him up? It's like, okay, well, Burgess seems to be like a pretty linear kind of fighter, where he's just gonna, like, charge you and stuff, like, he's gonna, like, rush into you. He's very fast. He's very strong. So just, stay immediately out of him. Like, if there's, like, the fastest member you have in your little group, try to, like, maybe dodge out of the way, and so if like he dodges the attack and then maybe you trip him up with like some tripwire or something, and he's like, oh wait, and he falls and hits the ground, and it's like a giant dust cloud, and then you go run and hide. You run and hide, and he gets back up and he's like, where'd they go, or whatever. And then I don't know, somebody like the guy with the mask shows up with like a crossbow or something, fires a bolt, fires it right into Burgess's head, and it doesn't hurt him or anything. It just like Armament Haki just poof and just knocks off his head. Although if you added Armament Haki to the bolt and then fired it, yeah, it still probably wouldn't kill him, but it would like hit him and it would probably like cause him some blood or something. It's like, oh, that's where you are. All right, I'm gonna rush into you now. And then that's when someone shows up from behind and like, actually, hello. He's like, what? And then try to get him to hit himself. Honestly, like that's what I would be. I would like try my damnedest to blind him or deafen him or do some status effect to him or something like that, and then get him to hit himself in the confusion or hit one of his other crewmates, throw up a dust cloud. Like, you do every dirty trick in the book, you can do it. But I think it's doable. I think it's doable. Yes, if Burgess went up against some random civilians in the South Blue or whatever, they would, yeah, he would annihilate them, right? But these are not random civilians. These are people that have trained on Law's crew, that have fought against Devil Fruit users, that have fought against Haki users. They know what to expect. And Burgess's fruit is really nothing all that complicated. I think they could figure out a way to like dance around him, make sure to avoid the attacks. Like I said, they wouldn't be able to straight up beat him. They wouldn't be able to get him on the ground unconscious like, oh, I am defeated by you now. But I think they'd be able to buy time. They'd be able to distract him. They'd be able to trip him up. If he's prone to anger, like if they knock him down and he's like, you damn, you keep knocking me down, roar. He's like, good, use that to your advantage. He's not thinking straight. He's raging right now. Okay, use that to your advantage, you know? Get him to like push him off into the ocean or something. Like, he's like, Galleon Lariat, I'm gonna charge right at you, charge! And then that's when Law uses room to like warp one of them away, and he's like, wait, what? And he just lands in the freaking ocean and drowns, you know? So there you go, use that kind of stuff, that kind of tactics. That's what I'm saying. Now, like I said, it doesn't work on everybody. Like, okay, Augur might be a little bit more difficult because Augur can teleport already and he's very smart, so I don't think he's going to get prone to rage or anything like that, and he's not going to make stupid decisions. But like Burgess, maybe. Doc Q, maybe as well. Doc Q is, well, he cuts the impression of a very ill old man, but he's actually not that old, and I guess he is ill, but it doesn't affect him negatively because of his devil fruit, so I don't know how you'd work around that guy, but like, you know, play to your strengths, I guess, and hopefully all of Law's Heart Pirates will get out of this alive, I guess. That's the best I got. Anyway, that's the video. That was a pretty solid video, I guess. Let me know how you would survive Blackbeard's crew if you were on Law's crew, and let me know. Like, you don't have a devil fruit, you might have a little bit of Haki, and that's it. What do you do with the stuff that's in your toolbox? Okay. Don't have the new animal facts for you yet, because I'm in a hurry today. Narwhal facts will happen, though. Mark my words. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later.